Welcome to the Indian Gaming Association, the New Normal webcast. My name is Lisa Johnson. I'm the conference manager for the Indian Gaming Tradeshow and Convention. I'd like to share a few housekeeping tips before we get started. Everyone is muted by default except for our speakers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box and they'll be brought up at the end. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Victor Rocha, conference chairman of the Indian Gaming Association.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to New Normal, your go-to source for in-depth discussions on the gaming industry and critical issues affecting Native American tribes across the United States. I'm Victor Rocha, and alongside me is my co-host, Jason Giles, Executive Director of the Indian Gaming Association. Jason, good morning.
Morning.
Today on the New Normal, we're talking about two of the most important events happening at the Indian Gaming Trade Show and Convention, which starts on Monday. Deep Dive 25 and the Digital Play Summit. Deep Dive 25 is on Monday, and Digital Play is on Wednesday. So first, we have Brian Sullivan, Vice President of Gaming America with Clarion Events. Brian oversees events logistics and has been instrumental in making the show great. He's our secret weapon. Brian, welcome. And alongside him is our dear
Thanks,
friend
Victor.
Allison McCoy, special event producer for Digital Play. Allison helped build this event. She's amazing. The poor thing has to work with me, so I feel bad for her. So excuse the twitch. How you doing, Allison? First of all,
Very good.
everybody, welcome. We really appreciate you here for the Department of Defense Signal Chat. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong conversation. Uh, Sorry, I was just reading about that thing. Anyhow, listen, on a serious note, welcome very much. But I want to talk about two of the most important events besides everything. But like we were saying before we started, one of the things with IGA, because it's so diverse and there's so many tribes that have so many different wants, and IGA was trying to be so many things to so many people. And I think now we're at the point is like, listen, this is what the reality is. You can't. And I mean, there was times where we couldn't talk about things. So people didn't want to hear about sports betting. They didn't want to hear about online gaming. And that was like a couple years ago, right, Jason?
Yep,
You know,
exactly. And
but yet now we're here and there's no restrictions. We can talk about the horizon. We can talk about the reality of gaming. And I think it's a great place. And I think the tribes are in a good position finally to understand is, just because you're talking about the future doesn't necessarily mean it's a threat. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom in understanding the future, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So, anyhow, Brian, how are you doing so far? First, let's talk. We're gonna start with Brian Allison. I hope you don't mind. Brian, how are you doing, man? How you doing?
Good. We're doing good here from the East Coast. No, things are going very well, Victor. There's a lot going on. There's so many things happening. Golf, the annual meeting, House of Blues, DPS, Tribal Bond, your sessions, the receptions on the show floor. So there is, there really is a lot of details here, and the devil's in the details. And I think most people like when they come, they like things ready and ready to go on it. So we've been, stepping on the gas and making sure we're well prepared by the time we touch down in San Diego.
That's wonderful. Brian, that let's start on the first day on Monday. So we start with the golf tournament now, right? Now, I believe the last time we talked, they said that was pretty packed.
I think it's full at this point. There's, a few folks have been coming in late on it. I know Chairman Stevens will be there with his group. There's maybe a few special people showing up there too. So, but I think we are completely full at Sequan.
Wow. Yeah, that always seems to be the case, isn't it?
It does.
Yeah. And then, Monday, after the golf, when we started this thing and they had the misfortune of putting me in charge of the agenda, I saw this spot in the agenda that wasn't being used, and I was like, why aren't we using this space? And that's kind of why we started doing the deep dives on Monday is like, let's do something specifically about whatever the issue may be, whether it's online gaming, whether it's sports betting. We last year we did artificial intelligence, talking about how we thought the industry was going to go, and we seem to be pretty spot on. On this time in the deep dive 25, we called it leveraging online gaming for tribal growth because I really wanted. Um, I wanted people to look at the reality of what interactive wagering is bringing. And when I say interactive wagering, I think at this point, listen, it's everything across the board that isn't on terrestrial gaming. You know what I mean? So we're looking at obviously we're looking at iGaming, we're looking at sports betting, but the way we're doing it, we're not defining what you're going to do. We're just like, look at these are the fundamentals of going online. These are the fundamentals of doing business. And what you need to do is you need to find out if online gaming is the right choice for you. And then what we did is so we start by that, we talk about doing due diligence, or as they say in California, due diligence. I know. That's how we work in California. And listen, it's very important, and that's been an issue with me. I saw it a couple years ago when everybody was building hotels, and I thought it was really important that we want to make sure that if another turn down comes, if another big crisis comes, that we aren't caught with having these massive amount of money outlays. You know what I mean? And it costs a lot of money to run a hotel, it costs a lot of money to run a resort and stuff like that. So doing your due diligence is very important. That's with Gene Johnson and Susan Leckert, and that's I think that's the most important thing, Jason, is making sure. I think everybody gets caught up sometimes in the excitement of stuff. And I think it's very important that we all stop, take a breath, and saying, how is this the best choice for us? And if so, which way should we go? And I think that's step number one and what everyone should follow. And then after that, we're going to be talking about white labels. Is a white label good for you? And that's a very important conversation in Indian country. And we have two people who I think couldn't be better at it, which is Brett Clapp and Melissa Blau, who both worked on the Desert Diamond app for the Tono Odom tribe. And they're also working with and Brett was involved with the Paula their what was it, online gaming software, which they ended up selling and stuff like that and making a profit, which ended up being a really good deal and stuff like that. So, we're going to look at that and say, listen, is this the right choice? Or should you be looking at that? And a lot of tribes, and the reason why this is a lot of tribes say, listen, we've spent a lot of money, we've invested a lot of money into our identity and who and what we are, and we feel maybe this is a better for this market, our name. And we want to talk about the realities of that. Yes, it's a good idea, but what's involved in that? What is the reality? And following that, we have our very, very special guest, Jason Robbins, the co-founder and CEO of DraftKings, and Christian Janetsky, who's the president of FanDuel. They're both going to be on a session, and I'm moderating that one. And we're going to talking about is the big brands the best choice for you then? What are the advantages of going with these guys? What does that look like? What does the deal look like? Is it good for them? Is it good for us? And then we all smoke a cigarette and move to the next panel. And then, and what was great about that is that wasn't even a big, all I had to do was ask those guys once and they said yes. And when they said yes, I actually had to double check because I was like, no way. They said yes that quick, and they did. And so you know what? We'll have Jason and Christian talking about their brands, why it's important, why tribes should look at them, and what are the advantages of going with the big boys. And listen, there are advantages and there are disadvantages, and we'll talk about that too. And then the final and most important session of that is negotiating these deals. And listen, we have Scott Crowell and I'm going. I got it right here. Carrie Patterson. I apologize, Carrie. Carrie's on there talking about how do you craft these deals? How do you make sure tribal sovereignty is protected? Making sure you have long-term benefits. Basically, the fundamentals of making sure, and you wouldn't think this is necessary at this point, and it probably isn't, but I think it's something that bears repeating, that it's important that you have good legal help. And at this point in Indian country, we know that, but again, I'll keep drilling it in until we do it. So what do you think, Jason? Where are we at on
Yeah, I
this?
mean, well, the biggest thing we got Allison here, and Digital Play was such a hit last year, and
Yes.
nowhere, frankly. And Allison, I don't know how you're going to outdo it this year, but I think we're coming in with a plan this year, so maybe that You know, it's either sometimes, the best laid plans don't always work out, but and the fact that it was spontaneous last year and that it did our attendees caught us off guard with the amount of interest even on that second day. Usually the second day of our show is dragging, but man, everybody came down for digital play. So we're excited with what you've got this year, Allison. We want to talk about it a little or
Yeah, Victor, are you good with the going into DPS?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
So, yeah, I did not have the opportunity to work on it last year. I was able to attend, thought it was terrific. Love the fact that it's now going to be at the front of the show floor, right inside one of the entrances. It's going to be really, really a destination on the show floor. With Victor and I really have developed what we think is a terrific program of content, and really what the Digital Play Summit, the purpose of it is to really kind of focus entirely on interactive wagering. So mobile, iGaming, sports betting, and then the technology that powers all of it. So we are really excited to have it right on the show floor so that all of our attendees to the event have the opportunity to, get some of this education. So there's going to be some relation with what's going on in the conference session in terms of some similar types of topics, but it's really going to be something that we hope the attendees can walk away with some actionable ideas that they can just, hit the ground running when they get back after the show. So really, we just want, this isn't just another set of panels. We want this to be, where the tribal gaming industry really confronts the future head on.
Yeah, absolutely. We it's important that we create these events on the floor, and this one is just, there's so many tribes already doing it right now, and there's other tribes that want to do it. There's other markets that still haven't opened up yet, and especially in California. So I want to make sure all the tribes in California have this knowledge. The tribes in Minnesota, where other markets are still having this conversation. So, and by the way, Jason, which is ironically, we're going to be in Minnesota in September, which is going to be wonderful too. So, maybe we can take this again and
Oh
move
yeah.
it over there and bring Allison and do something like that. But that's 6 months down the road. Brian, so we're down in the front, we're down in the floor, we're not in the back, shamed away where nobody can find us. We're like front and center. iGaming is no longer in the shadows, no longer the shame of Indian country, right?
Yes. Well, Victor, as Jason mentioned, last year it was kind of like a late edition on it. And so everything was already taken care of. Well, the show builds. Ed Gallo has already sold 30% of the show for 2026 already, and we haven't even made it to 25 yet. So with that kind of stuff, we have to plan early. So this year, knowing what the success of it was, we were able to pull it towards the front on it. So it will be, right in one of the front doors by the entrances, and it's because of the importance of it. Allison laid out a few things, but it's going to be drilled down. There's going to be real actionable information in there. Some of the things like cybersecurity or next generation on it. So it's not just talking about it from the clouds on it. It's going to talk about what is going to happen now and consider things like cybersecurity, next generation, and those types of things. So it's not fluff and cloud. It is right down to the earth and let you know what's happening.
There will be some case studies in the discussion and, things that have actually, what people have actually experienced in some of this lessons learned, successes, things like that. So real kind of in the weeds.
Yeah, I think, well, even if you just look at the first session, which is called Digital Leadership, the skills that define the next, this is really about, okay, you're thinking about it now, what kind of skill set, what kind of people do you need? What kind of team do you build going forward? What kind of leadership do you need to go forward? And that's really important. I think we've learned that just because you see something and trying to get there are two different things. And I believe this requires a new skill set. Some of the land-based guys can do it and some of them can't. And one of the big issues that I've always been concerned about is, the talent drain. Not every casino can get the same type, and this is a hard lesson I've learned. Not everyone can be a Pachanga, not everybody can be a Foxwoods, everyone, but they don't necessarily have to be to get that type of success. And that's kind of what we're here saying. Listen, we're going to help you, show you what you need to do. And we feel leadership is a very important. And look at later on in the thing, we're talking about team building. What kind of team do you build? But it really all starts with leadership. So we start off with leadership, and then after that, we're talking about shifting consumer behaviors. And I think this is so important because it's changing around us. And Jason, when we were at CNIGA last month, one of the things that I said in California, if we're talking about exclusivity, the conversation has changed. Exclusivity has gone out of California. You're dealing with sweepstakes. You're dealing with prediction markets. So gambling, as we know it, is live in California, untaxed, unregulated, and tribes aren't getting a part of it. So I think it's very important that people, and the reason why is shifting consumer behaviors. Not everybody's going to land-based. Mobile has changed everything. And so if I have to pound people over the head to drill it in, then that's what we'll do. You know what I mean? We'll keep having this conversation that they understand is that the consumer is changing, the demographics are changing, and you need to understand that if you want to have success in the future.
Well, on top of it, we've got AI and potentially cryptocurrency coming, which will further, upend the gaming environment. So talk about, non-exclusivity.
Well, you know what? What was great about this was, I said, okay, let's talk about crypto. And crypto was always something that was hard. No offense, but there's a lot of grifters in crypto, and everyone and their brother that comes to me, they're trying to sell me something, or they're going to change the world. And as soon as they sell me that, my hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But on this one, I knew it was different. You knew with the administration, things have changed. Those conversations have changed. And, right when we were doing this, the Choctaws announced they were doing a deal. Every part of it, they're going to be able to take crypto on the trade show floor. You have the administration looking at promoting crypto. So we have a responsibility to look at this issue in a very serious manner and in a very bright spotlight. And that's exactly what we're doing. So, and by the way, when we're talking about AI and when we're talking about hacking, for this one, we're talking about mobile because, this is different. This is the thing that you're having right now. I think if you look at, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Hold on one second. If you look at mobile, that's the vulnerability now. Everything in your life, I have to tell you, when I see people walking around the market with their phone in their back pocket, that horrifies me. You know what I mean? That's something I can't do, man. I have my phone. It's ready. Maybe it's the boomer in me or something. You know what I mean? I keep that thing because there's so much of your life is on that phone. You know what I mean? Your banking, your information. And more importantly, if you look at how it's happening, a lot of this is social engineering. That's how people get hacked. So, we're really looking at this in a new light, looking at and next generation problems require next generation solutions. And that's exactly what we're doing. And let me write that down. That might be the
Allison,
smartest thing I ever said.
you can include our national security secrets are also on our phone. But
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Allison, yeah, in terms of a digital team, I mean, how I don't even know where to begin with that and explaining that to tribes, and they should come over to the digital play area to understand that
Absolutely.
if you're a casino, if you don't have a digital team, you're kind of way behind the curve at this point.
Yeah, and we have a session, specifically to discuss that. And not only just how to build your in-house digital team, but also what are the benefits of doing an in-house versus having a third party. And maybe there's a hybrid sometimes where that might work. But really kind of what are you looking for? And we've got some great panelists from, Kelly Myers from GLI is going to be moderating that session. We've got
Darren
and
Dorsey from
got
AGEM.
Darren Dorsey. Yeah, so it's going to be, we actually had our prep call yesterday. So I think it's going to be really, I mean, I've been having the prep calls all week.
Mhm.
This is some really, really good content. And the speakers are all really excited to have these conversations and to really dive into these areas to address them. The changing, the consumer, the new player, the next generation player. How do you keep up? I mean, I got into the gaming industry about 20 years ago, and I remember then it was like, what's the next generation player? And it's like at that point it was like, how do you get them to play slots, or how do you get them onto your slot floor? And there's just so much more technology and so much more with the mobile and sports betting, and you really have to be ahead of it. I mean, it's happening. It's there. They're already in it.
Yeah. Jesse, one of the edicts that I ask Allison is, make sure all these conversations are not just geared towards the big tribes like Pachanga, but to the small tribes too, to making sure that they have solutions and that we're talking to them too. I've one of my favorite stories, which has to do with my growth as a human being, was I put on a panel once about having it was about data science, about having a data scientist, and I noticed on the panel there was a little friction on there, and it was really weird. I couldn't understand until later on the end of the panel, one of the people go, listen, we can't afford a data scientist, we're a small tribe in the middle of Idaho or something like that. And it was a real light bulb moment for me that I really need to start making sure that the small tribes can get something out of this, and not just best case scenarios, but we want everybody to have a solution. You know what I mean? And as Allison says, not everybody can have an in-house team, and sometimes having outsourcing is the best thing. So, we're just looking at the answers and the solutions, and we just want to make sure that the small tribes can find the answers too, and that it isn't
Yeah,
just the
and that
Pachangas and the Foxwoods.
that is something we're going to talk about at our board meeting and membership meeting as well. Is a lot of these smaller tribes, they don't have the energy resources to do massive makeovers of their casinos, to incorporate AI and all the other new technology. So where do they go from there? And that kind of ties into what our energy component of the trade show is, if you're a rural tribe off the grid, or, generally don't have a good source of electricity, there are alternatives, and there are things you can do as a smaller tribe. You know, Hopefully one day, one of the things I'm seeing, Victor, more and more, especially with our folks that are coming, is, small nuclear reactors. And you might say, what the heck?
No, 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 no. That
Yeah, I
was
mean,
part of the conversation. That was part
yeah,
of the
it's
conversation.
when you're looking at data centers to power AI and everything, those are really the quickest and cheapest way to go. But who wants a small nuclear reactor in their backyard?
Look at they have them over
So,
at MIT. They have them at
yeah, I know that's the
Harvard. They
thing.
have them, they have them nuclear
Tennessee,
submarines.
yeah, in Tennessee. I mean, exactly. So, it sounds scary, but it's
My
not.
dad's a nuclear engineer, so
Yeah,
it's safe.
yeah. Well, just
Listen,
don't build it in a tsunami zone or an earthquake zone.
Yeah.
listen, I worked at a nuclear power plant in Springfield with Homer, so I know
All
all
right.
about nuclear energy. But Jason, listen, there's a changer, there's a revolution. Energy has changed, the technology has changed, and it's incumbent upon us to look at this and say, understand where these things are going. And you're absolutely right. And that was the idea behind the Tribal Energy Summit, is to look at these alternative ideas, to look at microgrids, to look at renewables, to look at extractables. You know what I mean? And we were really honest at what we did. It was like, okay, this is a new administration. Let's take him at his word. Let's look at what they want to do, and let's see what are the opportunities here. I can't do anything about some of this stuff. All I can do is see where we can take advantage of some of this chaos, and that's kind of what I do. So, and by the way, it looks phenomenal. You know what I mean? I think it looks great. It was, I didn't know anything coming into it, and I still don't know a lot, but I just know there's a real education there too. So again, everything ties in together with what we do. Educate the people, educate the tribes. And listen, if you do energy, they can create better businesses. They can build energy sovereignty, independence, all that good stuff. And more importantly, make money. You know what I mean? That's the important thing. You know, I mean, good feelings and everything. I'm all about the environment, but I want to make sure the tribes make money. That's kind of where I come from. So, speaking of money, Brian,
Yeah.
how are you doing? You still owe me money from that card game.
Yeah.
So, Brian, so what about hotels and stuff like that? To change real quick, what are people? You mentioned some special events. And before we go back to Allison, what we have the golf. What are the ones that you were talking? Now, you mentioned Tribal Bond. That was the other one.
Tribal Bond is a new feature this year on it. So it's I think that area is full right now on it. It's an education arena, actually bringing manufacturers directly together with tribal folks that to understand. When we were in Barcelona, I remember Jason speaking and talking about how folks really need to understand how to work with tribes on it. So it's different on it. So a lot of folks know it, a lot of folks don't know it, and everything. So it's kind of an education or an intro there. So that's going to be very successful on it. And then you mentioned the hotels. Hotels are filling. Their space is getting very limited right now. There are still some available. Open our website or Connections Housing. If you're getting third-party emails that say we can get you hotel rooms, don't believe it on it. Connections Housing is the only one. Every single year, somebody falls for that kind of thing. They pay, they show up, and there's no sleeping rooms for you in San Diego on it. And then it's kind of trying to unscramble eggs to find you a room on it. So,
You know, Brian, it's so funny you mentioned that. Do you remember, was it 2 years ago in San Diego, we had a vendor on the floor that had purchased a list of all the vendors, and it was for someone, and then they got mad because they listen, I paid this money. Where's my list? We're like going, we don't offer this. You know what I mean? And do you remember that, Brian?
100%. The
At
list
the end of
is
San Diego, that was at the end of the San Diego.
Yeah, two things. The list is never for sale. And if you get something, you should be coming to, us as Clarion and Show Management or through IGA. Those are the only two areas. If it's something else, come to us and vet it out on it. Don't just dive in because Victor, you're right. Every single year this happens. Every single year somebody falls into the trap.
Well, and and look at that's why we created Tribal Bond. That's why we created these other events so that, and Tribal Bond, I'd almost say is almost like feels like mentorship where they bring you in, they educate you, you meet other and listen, the whole point is that you're meeting tribal executives, you're meeting people, C-level executives, people in the gaming industry, people that can help you make a decision for your business. We always say, sometimes sometimes knowing the chairman's cousin is not necessarily the best business practice. You know what I mean? And I say this as the chairman's cousin too, by the way. And remember, Brian, that was like for the longest time. And Jason, remember, is like, wait, listen, I know this guy's cousin, I'm in, and I think we've come a long way in the industry. I say that jokingly, but you guys know it's true. But we've evolved and listen, we've created these events for networking so you can meet tribal leadership. After done, you go and meet them. So join them there, but don't that poor guy. I felt bad for him. I don't know how much he spent, but he was pretty upset that he wasn't gonna get that list. And I don't know how much he paid, but I get those emails too. Get them in all the time saying, gonna sell the list. I can give you hotels. And I'm like, I used to respond to them, really? How much would you pay for mine? But at this point, you just delete them and that's the scam behind, that's what we have to do,
Scam.
So and also, by the way, the weather has been incredible here in San Diego. Joni Clark, somebody's soliciting. Oh, I remember Charlie. Someone's. I adored Charlie Columby, Chairman Charlie. So we have a quick Q&A and the thing. Let me read it real quick. I'd like to talk to you about your Tribal Energy Summit plans. I'm with John Denver's Windstar Foundation, the Rocky Mountain Industry. I think they're on Country Road, aren't they? I'm doing a panel, or so that's a solicitation. We'll talk that later. So anyhow, so then where we are, let's go back. Brian, what other special events do we have? No, we have the chairman's reception. When is that? That is on uh,
Monday night, House
Monday
of
night.
Blues. We're all ready. There'll be a band. It's going to be a great party. It's a great kickoff on it, and it is one of the number one networking arenas that's there. Everybody just likes to be there. There'll be food. There'll be beverages, entertainment, and some of the best networking is really kind of the kickoff. So that's a key place to be. Before we roll into Tuesday, and Tuesday is nonstop. Victor, between your sessions and the annual meeting, Jason, I know how important the annual meeting is to the tribes and everything. So everything is ready for Tuesday.
right. And
Excellent.
then Tuesday night, what do we have? Everybody's like parties, dinners. By the way, my band is playing the IGT party, which we normally do and stuff. So,
At Hard Rock.
and the reason why we don't play IGT or we don't play the IGA parties is because nobody wants the chairman of the conference playing this band playing there. Nobody, trust me. It
Oh, that's
just like
awesome.
it looks too
Where's
egotistic.
the IGT
It's over at the Hard Rock
Hard Rock.
on a
Tuesday night?
Tuesday night. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Over
Yeah.
by the pool and stuff like that. So
Poolside.
we're bringing
Yeah.
my band as you can know. I play guitar and stuff like that, which
Nice.
is no surprise for anybody born my age. Nobody should be surprised that a boomer plays guitar, right? Just so
Wednesday's going to be packed. Wednesday starts with the ribbon cutting. And Jason, I think there's a special performance going.
On Wednesday?
Yeah, hoop
Oh,
dancer isn't there the
yes. Yeah, for the ribbon cutting and
well, then
no,
we have a breakfast too. Don't forget that there's a
bird singer.
breakfast starting
Oh yeah,
over at TGPM breakfast. I think it starts at 8:39
right.
from 9 to like 10 or 8:30 to 10, I think is what it is. I think it's like an hour and a half. And so, and then you can go and have breakfast and you'll be told, like the airport, you can go over to the ribbon cutting
Right.
and then the floor opens up and, at that same time on Wednesday, that's when the Energy Summit is. Digital Play opens up, the trade show floor opens up. Listen, it's a beehive of activity. We've created just it's pretty amazing. I have to tell you, I think I've reached my limit of what I am capable of doing. So, I don't think we could add any more special titles or special events. I don't think I could, I don't have any more bandwidth. But
until
I
next
think what
year.
we have, oh yeah, stop it, Brian. We have, I think it's gonna be amazing. It's almost like a carnival and stuff. We should have a midway or something like that, Brian.
AGM reception that evening, right on the show floor on it before we get into Thursday, everything. So, and it's packed. It really is nonstop.
Yep. Breakfast on Wednesday, ribbon cutting at 10, all the events starting, the trade show, lots of free pens. Um, you know, listen, I actually, my wife and kid are coming too. So I want my kid to see. I was like, you got to see the trade show floor. And he was there 2 years ago, but it's just so exciting and I'm excited to have it. And like I said, the weather's been incredible here. You know what I mean? Today's a little overcast, but like this weekend was just like paradise. You know what I mean? It looks like what it looks like in those Bible tracks. You know what I mean? Oh, that looks like a beautiful day. That's what it looks like.
Well,
Yeah.
and Allison, so if we on Wednesday when the show opens, digital play, I mean, where can we find an agenda for digital play? Or
Good
is it more
question.
uh
Yeah. Yeah, if you go onto the show website, the at the top menu, there's I think it says other events, and it drops down and say Digital Play Summit, and you can look at the check out who's going to be on the panels, what they are. One thing I did also want to mention about Digital Play Summit, because it's on the show floor, there may be the perception that it's like a sales pitch. It is not.
No.
But what it does do is, because of who we've got speaking on these panels, going back to that, wanting the audience to be able to walk away with some real actionable ideas. Some of these speakers are work for these companies, these technologies that are out there. And so, go ask questions. This is education, not just about the topic, but really about some of these solutions that are out there and, what they provide, what they can offer. To Victor's point about, sometimes if a tribe is, looking like, okay, we need this, but how are we going to pay for it? Well, there may be solutions that you're not aware of that are out there that, would be a fit. So this is the place to come, and we've got some of the kiosks with some of this technology kind of surrounding the area where people can go and see it in action. I think we want this to be interactive with the audience to be able to, access and talk to the speakers and ask questions. And, that's really what it's all about.
Great. Great. I mean, Victor, that's the essence of it. If you're there, you've got to come to our membership policy meeting in the afternoon at 2:30 if you want to talk about all the things that are going on. One of them being this regulatory issues, with sports prediction markets. But from there on Wednesday we go right to digital play, which is it's all integrated, and we're as an organization we're trying to sort through this. We're trying to find out where our allies are and our enemies are in this whole thing, and it's going to be even tougher for tribes. And I have full faith, tribes really reformed and got gaming out of the darkness, if you will, gambling out of remember, gambling was just, associated with smokers and, houses of ill repute, if you will. And when tribes took it to another level with, even just something as simple as ticket in, ticket out, you just attracted a whole new base of customers. And I really think digital play is going to do that as well. And we're excited about what we can learn from it and take from it, because this is really where we get our information for the year, and then we go back into our little corners in DC here and do our real jobs of trying to lobby. Hopefully we have a government left to lobby. There'll be some agencies still around that we can work with, but it's really an interesting time, and especially with the impacts on what artificial intelligence and crypto are bringing. I mean, Victor, we talked about it forever, but in the span of 6 weeks, it's gone. It's if you're not doing it, you might be left behind, because they're going to open the floodgates to this, and good and bad is going to happen. But there's a lot of good, and it all comes
There
in.
is.
So
There
again,
is.
with saving money, saving time, providing better products, the whole 9 yards. It really will be a net benefit, but we just got to get there carefully. So.
Well, Jason, I'm glad you said that, because, I look at this conference as just not an opportunity to sell stuff, but an opportunity to provide answers.
Right.
And, I think right now,
Yeah.
there's so much disarray with the disassembly of the structure of the government, and the well-worn pathways that we knew are been gone or eliminated. So
Right.
it's incumbent upon us to provide answers, and that's exactly what we're doing,
The solution to a lot of, the less wealthy tribes and more rural tribes, dang, the solution is also, what the answer is, automation. Imagine going into a casino off the highway in the middle of Montana, and there's very few people working in there, but you have all these bots and everything else providing a good customer service. I mean,
Everybody loves gambling with bots, Jason.
yeah,
People
well,
love they leave their farm to hang out with bots, because that's
look,
what the human
yeah,
condition needs,
the bot didn't come from home to work and bring all its problems with it. And,
Ah,
and you got a surly blackjack dealer or craps table.
listen, I'm sitting at the
Hey.
bar hitting on a robot. We all know this. I'm at the end of the bar hitting on the robot. It's not my fault they put a robot at the end of the bar.
I mean, we gotta be
Somebody's gonna
all
get hit
for it.
on.
I mean, so, I mean, look, even just automated cars. I mean, if you got drunks at your casino, just stick them in an automated car home. They'll get home, wherever they got to go.
Jason, I see it differently. Jason, I think, and
They'll never come back.
you're starting to see in California, is that tribes are understanding that the void needs to be filled in the online gaming. And this is more revenue that can be brought into the tribes and replace revenue the government is taking. or that they're losing. And you're seeing this in California. I mean, it's a silent gold rush. Tribes are moving forward. They understand. When I was at CNIGA, and this is a continuation of the conversations at CNIGA. You know what I mean? So tribes understand that, and I think the sweepstakes things have driven the point home that if the tribes aren't occupying that digital space, then they're losing. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's kind of the message that we're trying to bring. And you know what? I'm looking at one of the sessions at 11 a.m. on Thursday. On Thursday, we're calling a session called, leveling the playing field, collaboration strategies for smaller tribes. So we
Yeah.
are really looking at solutions and saying, look, at this isn't that it's exclusive for the rich tribes. There's other solutions here. There's other opportunities, and that's what we're doing in Europe, and that's what we were doing in Barcelona. Bringing tribes over there and saying, listen, maybe there's opportunities here for you to expand. You can, you know, there's opportunities everywhere, and we have grown in the last 30 years to take advantage of it. And I think that's the thing that's always blown me away about ICE is the fact that we could walk there and we can go there, not walk there. We can be there and walk the floor and as leaders and as the heads of the industry. And that's an incredible industry because everything's relevant. So, we're trying to bring some of that here. We're trying to bring the answers and the solution. And especially now with this new administration, we're just trying to provide solutions.
Yeah.
And with the change of digital, with the change of the administration, with everything, our heads are screwed on straight. We understand what's going on, and we're going to share that with you. So that's what we do.
And I'm gonna have to jump off, Victor. I got an early trade show audit meeting, but it's all good, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there. So,
Yes, yes.
everyone tuning in today.
You know what, Jason, that's fine.
Yes.
We're going to go a little while longer,
Yes.
and we're done. We don't want to
Thank you, Allison.
10:41 anyhow.
Thanks,
So
Jason. Look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you.
yeah, Jason, thank you. Good luck.
Talk to you, Brian.
All
See you in
right.
San Diego, Jason.
See you
Travel
guys.
safe.
See you guys. See you
Bye.
guys. All right. Look, oh, thank God he's gone. So again, thank you guys so much. What else have we missed, Brian? So we got everything's happened Thursday, and even Brian, Jason mentioned it. It was kind of surprising on Thursday, the last day of the week, that the trade show was packed as it was. Whether people just didn't want to go home to their miserable lives, or they wanted to hang out and see what we had in store, which was obviously that's why they're there. And by the way, that's a joke. Um, um, that was pretty great. That's always a good feeling, Brian, to see the show packed on Thursday. And I think it's a combination of a great trade show, great location. San Diego's phenomenal. And I think a lot of people take later flights out so they could just hang around and eat some Mexican food before they have to get back on an airplane and fly back to, wherever we're flying, so
100%. Yeah, Jason, there is still a lot that goes on. Jason, I'm sorry, Victor. There's so
I'm
much
not
that
as smart
still
as
goes goes on Thursday. We didn't talk about the Chairman's Lounge. We didn't talk about the Tribal Leaders Lounge. All these other things that still happen where there's either cultural entertainment or there are additional sessions on that happen throughout the day there. So it's impossible to get through the entire event on Wednesday. So that's why Thursday exists, is to continue on and go on. It doesn't stop until the carpet starts to get rolled up. So those kinds of things just continue on it, especially the Chairman's Lounge.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And by the way, the Chairman's Lounge and the Tribal Leaders Lounge do have different identities. The Tribal Leaders Lounge is where Chairman Stevens is, and that's basically where we have more tribal centric content. But one of the things that we did do is, because of the education sessions, is that I know people are there to promote their products, and this is a business, this is a convention and trade show. The education sessions are different. They're about elevating, bringing the mind up, understanding the issues. But we decided on these trade show days that we're gonna create sessions where people can pitch their products. So Chairman's Lounge is more tribal centric, and the Tribal Leaders Lounge is more business centric, where people are doing sales presentations, product or services presentations. and that's why they are. And you know what? They've just been really well attended, very well received, and it's great. I just felt a real need to make sure people get an opportunity to put their best foot forward, and you have their booths, and you know, there's nothing better than doing a nice presentation with speakers and coffee and drinks, and it's become a real hub where people relax and take a load off their feet, and you know, it's very people friendly. You know what I mean? I think the floor has
Absolutely.
become very people friendly. Listen, I've been to some trade shows and they're brutal, man. Where like the food is bad, you're walking, you know, and stuff like that. And to sit down and have a conversation, have a cup of tea, that's a wonderful feeling. And you know, and it does make all the difference in the world sometimes on your experience and stuff like that. So we've really tried to make it really comfortable, very welcoming, like Indian country is, and stuff like that too. So, Allison, is there anything else you would like to say about digital play?
Just that I think, again, we're going to have some more content on Thursday, talking about AI and talking about sweepstakes and regulated gaming. That's a pretty hot topic.
Right.
So that's going to be another great one. And talking about, just kind of that, like we mentioned earlier, kind of the digital economy, crypto and cashless. And so I think, strong program Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, just note we are starting at 10:15 instead of 10 o'clock to give people a chance to go to the ribbon cutting and to get onto the floor. But again, Digital Play Summit is right inside one of the entrances, so it's not like you have to go in and then kind of navigate your way through. You'll be able to step right in. So
That's great.
yeah.
Although I did like being able to go by the Chairman's Lounge and see straight down that aisle to see where it was, so I could keep an eye on it. Now I have to walk on the other side of the floor to keep an eye on it.
Small
But
price to pay.
well, listen,
2,500 aisle.
2,500.
2,500 yep.
Well, I think what we're saying is that you're going to get your steps in. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Come here, you're getting in your steps. I won't be 60 miles like we did at Caesars in Las Vegas, but you know, you'll get how many miles do you get, Brian? I
It,
get 30 miles usually. I get to like 25, 30 miles usually in walking,
oh
something
yeah,
like that.
it's in that neighborhood. 25,000 steps per day is usually around what it is on it. So, but after a while, you stop counting.
Listen, when I had that meniscus surgery and I was riding around on that cart in Anaheim, oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. I hated that thing. I understand why, you know, it's just you can't don't have eye contact and people have to look down at you, and I hated that thing. So, but anyhow, listen, we're gonna thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you all. We're gonna. I get down there Monday night. Everyone will be around. I'm sure there's no real organized events for a Sunday night, are there, Brian? Is just everybody coming
No,
in?
no, the only thing Sunday night is just the board meeting on there. So folks that were, but that's closed to the IGA board on it. So that really is one avenue that'll happen at the Hard Rock, and then everything else really kicks off on Monday.
Yeah. So, you know, everyone comes in, everybody has dinner. We all get to see each other, see each at the hotel bar. But Allison, thank you so much for all the hard work you've done. I really appreciate it. I think it looks phenomenal. You know, these things are never easy to do right. If there was, everybody would be doing it. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Brian, again, you've done an amazing job. How do people get in touch with you, Brian?
Email brian.sullivan@clarionevents.com on it, or I'm probably listed in an email chain to you somewhere. So
Right, right. So get your hotels, get there. There's still room. Get your flights. San Diego's
register.
beautiful.
Yep.
Free tacos for there's a taco truck on every corner. So that's why we go there. Allison, adore you. Thank you so much. And I will see you on when are you getting in?
I get in Monday night.
Monday night, and I will see you then. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I'll be there on
Great.
Sunday
Thanks
night.
all.
Safe
See you guys.
travels.
Travel
Thanks,
safe.
everybody.
See you in San
Bye.
Diego. Thanks.